Among the incredible array of machines that humans have invented, there isn't one that even remotely compares to the infinite complexity of the human body. Our upright posture, the hand, vision, and our other senses. Each system is a marvel of engineering and design. With recent advances in science, we know a lot about how these systems work, how the hand is controlled by neural centers in the brain, how individual muscles work, etc. But the hand is not simply controlled by the brain, and muscles do not simply get controlled individually to produce movement. Each one of these is part of a larger system, and as a purely practical matter, we know very little about how this system works as a whole and how to use it to best advantage. When we understand that, we can go far beyond methods and use the system the way it was designed to be used, and what's more, become more conscious of how we're using it in our daily activity. A good example of this is breathing. We know a lot about breathing and all the specific parts that make up and contribute to breathing, but breathing is part of a larger system, and when we can restore it, we can not only make improvements, but use it the way it's meant to be used naturally, and in the process, learn to do that in our daily lives as a matter of ongoing awareness. In these talks, I'm going to be looking at these different systems, how they work as a whole, and how to bring them under greater conscious control. I've been working for many years on developing a model that looks at the different systems and how they work. And by doing that, I'll be outlining what I consider to be a new field in human development. So I want to begin by looking at breathing, but a very basic aspect of breathing, namely using the nostrils. It's really important to understand the design of the nostrils and mouth because it's a basic part of breathing that we are often not even aware of. So to begin with, we're able to take air in through two passageways, the oral passageway and the nasal passageway, and you could see in this illustration that the nasal passageway obviously is above the oral, comes into the upper part of the pharynx or throat at the back, and the oral passageway enters just below that, and then the air comes down the pharynx and through the trachea. Although we can breathe through the mouth, the nostrils are better suited to prepare the air for entering the lungs. Why? Because they're designed in such a way, and this is true of each side, they're designed in such a way with kind of scroll-like features to bring the air in and get it to flow in a turbulent manner that forces it to get the air against the mucous membranes within the nasal cavity. And this helps to warm, humidify, and filter the air so that it's in a better state to go into the lungs. Now, why is this important? Well, we can practice a breathing method that will temporarily get us to use our nostrils and to get the benefits of using our nostrils. But the problem isn't simply that we need to use them, but that we're habitually mouth breathing and not using the nostrils. And if you're aware of how the nostrils work and actually pay attention to how they work, you're more able to pay attention in an ongoing way so that it could become a new kind of habit. Okay, so that's a key design component of breathing through the nostrils. We have two passageways for taking in air, and the nostrils are the dedicated passageway that we could become more aware of as a matter of habit. What does it mean not to mouth breathe so that we are breathing through the nostrils? Well, if you open your jaw and you look at what your tongue is doing, you'll see that the tip of the tongue will rest just behind the lower teeth or touch the lower teeth. And the tongue, because it has volume, will kind of arch a bit. And then, of course, it goes back and down the throat. Well, if you think about what happens when the jaw is open and then you close it, the tongue will go up against the hard palate. forming a natural seal with the hard palate that will make it impossible to breathe through your mouth. So the resting position of the tongue, when the lips are together and the jaw is closed, forms a seal that blocks off the oral passageway so that you'll breathe through your nostrils. Now that's not the only place where the tongue will form a seal. It will also form a seal just behind the hard palate, which is where your soft palate is, and it will back up against the soft palate so that even if you open the jaw, if the tongue is still backing up against the soft palate, it will form a seal. And you could still breathe through your nostrils, like that. When you close the jaw, now the seal is complete and everything is blocked off in the oral passageway. Now, why is that important? Well, if you're aware of where the tongue is, the jaw, the lips, the tongue, and you close your jaw, then you can actually become conscious of how all of that being left alone and being in its natural resting position, the tongue will form that seal so that you'll be sure that you're breathing through your nostrils. So again, the design is really important because by being aware of the design, now we can be sure that we're breathing through the nostrils, not simply because we're practicing a method a few minutes a day, but as a general rule. So the two things we can summarize here: one, be aware of the air going in and out through your nostrils, and you can actually notice that, and just do that for a moment. You'll notice with your lips together, your jaw closed, you can actually feel the air going in and out through the nostrils because those mucous membranes are very sensitive, and you could feel the air going in and out. And at the same time, you could also be aware of the jaw, the tongue, the lips, so that you're aware of the resting position of the tongue, and you're also leaving it alone, not moving or holding anything. So that, again, as a general rule, this becomes part of your background awareness, ensuring that you're breathing through your nostrils. Okay, in the next talk, I'll speak a little bit more about nostril breathing as it relates to the throat and the facial muscles, because as we're going to see, the nostrils they're not just sort of a fixed structure here that is sort of independent of everything else. They're really part of a larger system, and it's good to be aware of what that larger system is. But there are two things we can say before we move on that are kind of larger points that this series is going to get at. The first is that we have an amazing design, and we need to learn about it, not simply by practicing methods, but by knowing how the design works, because we have this body, this system is an incredible instrument that we need to know more about. The second thing is that by becoming aware of the instrument, we're not just using our awareness to make an improvement. The awareness of the instrument, it turns out, is part of the instrument. Or to put it in a different way, consciousness is not just sort of a tool to be used to make improvements. Consciousness is part of the very design of being human. And that's a sort of a larger and more meaningful conclusion that we can draw from the process that we're going to be looking at.